Want to know a bit about Irish history? Well, watch this video. Well, what's happening, everybody? I hope yous are all well. Can you see this big Ferris wheel behind me? Isn't it amazing? They're putting that big wheel up. But yeah, Ireland has a complex history, and if you subscribe to my channel, you know I do quite a bit about Ireland and like Irish culture and Irish history in general. And explaining the complete Irish history in one small video would be almost impossible. But yes, I know a lot of people who say they're Irish or claim to have Irish history, whether they be from America, Canada, the UK, or elsewhere. Are keen to really know a bit about Irish history. So today I thought I would head back to the Ulster Museum and explore a bit of the complex history, particularly related to Northern Ireland, but more or less the partition of Ireland around 1921 era, in the Irish Revolutionary period. And I think it'll give you a brief bit of history or a bit of insight into Irish history. But yeah, without further ado, let's head to the museum. Well, here we are, good old Ulster Museum. I absolutely love it, and I can't recommend this place enough. It's absolutely brilliant for a day out, and there's whole lots of things to explore here, not just Irish history, but also a lot. But as you can see, there's a lot about the Troubles here, which was from late 1960s to 1990s. The big conflict here, over 3,000 people died. But here's this big Irish cross. I actually don't know if it's real, but I think it's amazingly cool. Like, look at the size of it. I would love to know if it's real. And I'm like a big child just walking across this. I'm always worried one day it'll just collapse, but yeah, I have to do it. And an interesting fact, there has never been dinosaurs discovered in Ireland. I think that's a very interesting fact, to be honest. But yeah, this is an Irish wolfhound, and it's actually a champion one. It doesn't look as big in the video, but it's an absolute monster of a size. But here we go into the Troubles and Beyond Museum. There's Culcanan, a really ancient Irish and specifically Ulster like folk hero. And you see he like gauge it into the Troubles and Beyond. But this area of the museum is associated with the Troubles in Northern Ireland, as I say, between the late 1960s to the Good Friday Agreement in 1998. There's a load of like testimonials here. You would get a lot of bombs artifacts, and here's actually a bomb disposal machine, and there's a bin lid. People would use that for like to warn people of like the police or something coming. And I think this sums up Ireland in a nutshell. Catholics would do the Gaelic and Protestants would use rugby. Look at this. This is each red petal represents over the 3,000 people that died in the Troubles. This is Ulster versus Republicanism. This was the 1980s period. As you can see, Bobby Sands there, and like Ian Paisley, Thatcher. Here's guns, and if you actually look at this, Muncie, I find this super interesting. There's a rubber bullet here, you can see, and it actually says, I don't even see it, it actually hit somebody right in the face. Rubber bullets were actually very commonly used, and they were quite dangerous, very dangerous. And this TV as well, it was actually carried out in the 1969 like rebellion, and people starting to go. So great bit of history, to be honest. And it just shows you like that every piece of item can be used as a piece of history. Here's actually a pipe bomb. This was used by like a loyalist paramilitary group, and here's the Republican groups. These would have been items carved in jail. That's another like undercar bomb device. But yeah, we're now entering earlier histories, and this is like a war artifact. I actually don't know what type of war it is, but you can see there's like a shell. Here's the Wall Street Christ, so I presume this is like 1920s, 1930s period in Irish history. But as you can see, like tins of milk, the people would have used in like old cameras. Now we're entering like World War One, and World War Two, and as you can see, old metals and like swords. Now it's World War One. You can see, I don't know if you can make it out here, like an amputee's arm. I actually don't know what that is, but look at these wee figures. Can you see them? Look at I would love to collect these type of things. They're like wee soldiers that people would use to collect. And now we're into the Boer War. It's a period of history I've never really studied, to be honest. But I actually, if you want to see this gun, look at this gun. Like, can you see it there? Look at the condition it's in. It's amazing, and considering it's over 100 years old. There's the Ulster Covenant and Partition right beside each other. I think another thing that sums Irish history up is this, right in a nutshell. It's interesting it's right beside the COVID history, which, yeah, let's not speak much about that. Now, Ulster's history in terms of industrialisation. Ulster was the world's #1 linen industry. And these would have been like items that made the linen. Probably a bit of history you didn't really know about Ireland, but yeah, big in terms of linen and manufacturing. Now, as you can see, we're into like French Revolution history. So 1800s, 1700s would have been relatively quiet about Ireland. There was a famine in 1741. The big famine was 1845 to 1852, more or less. But there's nothing really here about that. Now we're into like plantation Ulster, which is pre 1700s era. As you can see, this is the whole thing that it's the 12th festivals and bonfires will be celebrating at the minute. So as you can see here, that's just all this stuff. Yeah, I find it quite interesting. And even stuff like this here, can you see it? How like Gaelic society, people used to make this from like wood, and before like industrialization, this would have been what people lived on as jobs. So it's very interesting, to be honest. This is the Spanish Armada. I'm not going to delve too much into this, but as you can see, there's a lot of items here if you want to check out the Spanish Armada, like a lot of gold and stuff like that. But we're just going to like pass through and go into like medieval, like Game of Thrones era type of things with the Vikings and Normans. So this is like pre 1500s. And look at this ring. Can you see this? This is super cool. This is what would have been used for like stamps and to like submit the Lord. It's actually from the O'Neills from Tyrone. But I think that would have been super cool. Here's just like the swords, and as you can clearly see from like the Game of Thrones era, the old Norman Viking helmets and swords and items like that. Can you see this? I don't know if my camera's coming out quite clear enough, but yeah, I actually find this super cool. This is what people would have washed themselves with at their items on. This is like Norman lordship, so what people would have worshipped back in the day. This is the shrine of St. Patrick, actually. So super cool. But yeah, this is what people would have worn in the Viking age. So there would have been tar brooches. I don't know if you can see that there. And other like items that they would probably put on their face or maybe their clothes. This probably sums it up more or less. This here, the tar brooch. And its glory here. It's quite cool. Pure like Game of Thrones, that type of era. But look at the size of this shoe. How did somebody's feet fit inside that? Isn't that amazing? That was actually a real shoe. I find that bizarre how somebody could fit in it. Here's like old shields. This is actually from conquest period, so maybe like 1000s. And like high society lived. But like you can see how people lived in those days. It's actually quite interesting. It's something I would actually love to study more. Well, that's about it, folks, in terms of the Irish history of the Ulster Museum. In a brief overview, as you can see behind me, the Game of Thrones dragons. But yeah, there's a whole lot more here if you want to visit. I never went to the animal parks where there's like all ancient animals and stuff like that. Then there's like the crystals and stuff, all that there type of stuff, and ceramics and artwork. There's a whole host of artwork. But yeah, I can't recommend the Ulster Museum enough. Great for a free trip and to explore Irish history or any other Irish history you want. But yeah, that was just a brief overview about Ireland through the years. And yeah, drop a comment in below if you want to know any more, and I'll probably do a more lengthier video on a specific topic or anything like that. But yeah, thanks very much for joining.